Hi, this is Jim Janossy.
I'm going to give you a short tour of the course website for GPH-205 Historical Foundations of Visual Technology. The way that you get there is to enter this URL alias, pyopy.co/205. When you do that, you'll be redirected automatically to this site. What you're looking at now is the home page of the course website for GPH-205. You'll notice here on the right, there's a standard sort of a menu. These are the academic units. The first 4 of these are the academic units, and the 5th has information about your reflective essay. These are just overviews. The actual material for these units is in the published workbook. Down here are some links that have letter identifications, and I'll go through those in just a minute too. What you want to do is take a look at every page of this website and become familiar with the contents. This page is longer than most. It contains some overview information, and you really should read this. Also note that I am available every day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the telephone number indicated in the emails that I've sent to enrolled students already. Let's take a look at what you can do here. This video, if you play it, will explain a little bit about the course to you. If you click this star, it gives you a sample of what the workbook looks like. So you know what's coming at you. The key feature is this sort of a code which is on almost every page. This is a scannable QR code. With a smart cell phone or an iPad or an iPod or other tablet device, if you scan this, you'll see the illustrations on the page in full color. Or if you don't have a cell phone or an iPad or an iPod to scan this with, you can just enter this very short URL alias on the browser line of your web browser, and you'll go to the same place. In fact, this pattern just encodes this short little URL alias. In most cases, where these things lead to is one or more videos, perhaps a lecture that I've given on this page, or some other videos that illustrate the topic. Let's go back here though. What you want to do, first of all, you want to get the official syllabus for the course, so you click here. Then you'll want to click here to download the confirmation of participation form, which is also the form on which you submit the schedule that you'll be keeping for the completion of these 5 units. I'm going to take a look at that right now. It comes down as a zipped file, and if I extract all from that zipped file, you'll see that this confirmation form exists in 4 different formats, and you can choose whichever of these opens best in your own word processor. This one, RTF, is probably the most flexible and will open in just about any word processor. And what you want to do on this form is fill in here the dates between November the 26th and December the 14th that you complete each one of these units. Think of a unit as a segment. In some online courses, these are called modules. I just call them units. So this you can edit with a word processor, and then you submit the revised document to me. On the due dates, click on this link, link A, and you'll see that I've indicated some suggested dates here for the completion of those units. If you use these dates, it's fairly evenly spaced throughout the 3 weeks that the term runs, but you can make up some other dates if you wish. Just don't try and make them all December the 14th. I do want you to plan how you're going to get this work done and not just try and reserve everything for a cram session at the very end. Let's go back to the welcome page. This is an overview of the way the course works. And these are the items of work for each of the first 4 units. The unit summary form is a matrix document that has a number of rows and columns. There's a worksheet for it in the workbook. You use that worksheet to aggregate the information from the textbook reading, the workbook readings, and the videos, and you can then download a machine-readable copy of that form on which you just formalize your notes by typing them in, and you send me that document. The repeatable online exercise, there is one for each of the first 4 units. It's got only 5 questions in each exercise. The last one has 8 questions. And all of the questions are groups of true-false statements. But the scoring is a little bit unique. There's a link at the upper right that explains the best way to do the exercises. There's also a hands-on project located at the end of each of the first 4 units in the course workbook. Some projects have multiple parts. I've designed these projects to illustrate topics that we cover in the readings and the videos. There are some video tutorials on these projects also. These are intended to help you understand better some of the highlights and the most important things in the chapters as we go through the story of art. The projects are what provide some of the technical background on the artistic endeavors of various people throughout the eras that we'll study. I would encourage you to explore the course website because I put information in here that will be very helpful to you during the course. Unique things about the course, please read through this. There's a number of things I've explained in here about the way I've approached the design of these courses, and if you're interested in some of the research behind it, you can click at this link. By the way, I notice I have to update this. This was the dedicated email address for the autumn term. Of course, the dedicated email address for the December intersession is GPH-205December@gmail.com. Each of these 4 units is described in overview form by a page. This is just the way to get familiar with what's coming at you. And I've noticed here, since I've upgraded from Windows 7 to Windows 8, for some reason the browser is presenting this text rather small. Of course, you can make the screen bigger for yourself if you need to. The way to do that is with a Control+, and this tends to work in just about any browser, and a Control- will take you back down to the original size. Here is a reminder. These are the 3 items due in Unit 1. There's also a reminder here that you can download the first chapter of the course workbook, The History of Visual Technology, 3rd edition, in PDF form at link B, B for books. And I do that so that you can get started right away, even if you haven't yet acquired by that point a copy of the published course workbook, which really is the course. Unit 2 covers the Middle Ages, and once again the same work is due, same types of items. And here's just an example of what one student in a prior term submitted in response to the first part of that assignment. Unit 3, Renaissance and Reformation. You'll see it's just simply an overview and an indication of what's due. Baroque and beyond, as all units cover about 6 chapters in the story of art and a dedicated unit in the course workbook. And here is once again an example of a portion of the project that's due for that unit. Now, here's something I'm going to suggest that you take a look at fairly soon in the term, and that is the nature of the reflective essay, which occurs at the end of the course. That's something that's due the very last that I can accept work, that is December 14th, and it's a very unique piece of writing. It's not an academic paper. Instead, it's creative writing, and you use your unit summary forms to supply the facts to write essentially a short story of a historical fiction variety. It's fiction because you make up the character, but it's historically accurate because you're going to be drawing from your USFs for the facts that you'll be talking about. In your course workbook, there's about 9 pages in Unit 5 that describe this reflective essay. You'll do yourself a really big favor if you fairly early in the term go through Unit 5 so you see what you're aiming at in learning all throughout the term. And as with the other pages on this website, I'd encourage you to explore this very thoroughly. Now let's take a look. We've already seen link A, which is my suggestion for your schedule for the term. The books required, I've included links here to actually purchase these books at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and perhaps even a third location. Especially in the case of the workbook, there is a third location to make sure that there will be some source for you to get this fairly rapidly. It is in the bookstore, however, in the Loop bookstore, and you should be able to pick up a copy there unless you wish to order it online. The main text, The Story of Art, is also available in public libraries because it's not specifically a college text. It's a book that's offered in most bookstores, and many libraries also have copies. I donated copies to the DePaul libraries. There should be some in Lincoln Park, and there should be some copies at the Loop Library. If you're one of the first students to ask, you'll be able to borrow that book, and you won't even have to buy the first one, although this one is fairly economical, and I think this one is too. They're both under $30 if you buy them online. I try to make sure that the book cost for courses I design is not excessive. Link C talks about the repeatable online exercises, and this is a very important link for you because here I'm giving you access to tutorials on how to sign up and how to do these exercises, but also I'm describing the nature of the exercises and the best way to work on them. They are learning tools. They're not quizzes. The system that supports them mislabels them as quizzes, because I think really in designing online courses, many people still haven't come up with the idea that there are things you can do online that are different and actually better than things that you can do in a classroom. Too much of the design of online courses is an attempt to replicate the classroom but not go any farther. The online exercises, however, in this course are like instantly graded homework. They're learning tools. It's intended that you work through them perfecting one question before you move on to the next one. You can submit the exercise even if you've only completed one question, and that's actually the intended way to do it. And then, based on the score that you get, you see if you scored perfectly. If you haven't scored perfectly, you go back and review what that question covers. The content of the exercises is printed in full in the course workbook so that you can use it as notes. And as you perfect a question, you perhaps mark in pencil the answers that were correct and the answers you want to change, and they become your permanent record of how you've answered the question. So you can study them offline if you wish. Once you complete the perfection of each of the 5 questions in a given unit's repeatable online exercise, then you go back and you do that exercise one last time using your notes, and you get a perfect score. And that is the intended way of using these. But read this link, especially these admonitions at the bottom. Don't wait until the end of the unit to work on the exercise, and don't do the exercise as a whole right off the bat. You'll become frustrated if you do that, and you'll lose the advantage that they provide to your learning. Work submission. Take a look at this link. This is the address that you send things to as you complete your work. That's also an address you can email me questions. This is a dedicated email address for this term, for this course. I use this because it's actually much handier for everybody on both sides of the lectern to use this mechanism rather than a learning management system like D2L to submit things. The main advantage to you is I do give you the opportunity to revise and resubmit your homework, so that when you submit things to me, I give you very detailed feedback because I'm acting as a mentor, and I encourage you then to revise and resubmit the work so that I can regrade it, and you'll probably get a higher score. Plus, I think you'll learn more. So this is facilitated by using a dedicated email address, in this case Gmail, and as an advantage, Gmail also opens for me automatically any formatted document. So I don't have to nag you to use a specific word processor. Instead of just conveying the document to me, it actually opens it up for me. And that's a real advantage on my side because I use a PC, although I have access to a Mac, I tend to use the PC more, and there are word processors like Apple Pages that don't work on a PC, but Gmail can open Pages documents for me. So happily, use any word processor you wish. If you want information on the OpenOffice word processor, I can suggest where to get that too, and that's of course absolutely free. Here's how your course grade is computed at Link-E. This chart really says the whole thing. These gray shaded boxes are the 3 items that you're graded on in each one of the first 4 units, and the reflective essay is what you're graded on for Unit 5. For ease of computation, I scale the whole course to 1,000 points as a perfect score. That means, of course, it's very easy to express it on a scale of 0 to 100 just by changing the decimal point. Here you see the percentage that each of the units counts towards the course. The earlier units count for less than the later units, and the reflective essay counts for 25%. Broken down a different way, the online exercises count for 25% of your grade, the written unit summary forms 25%, the projects in total 25%, and the reflective essay 25%. So 4 equally weighted components of your grade. There is a little extra credit possible. It's at the end of every unit. Here's something unique. If you know someone else in the class already, you can work in a team of 2. When you work in a team of 2, you both get the same grade for each assignment. You do have to send me a little write-up with each assignment that explains how you split the work up and how you joined it together so that each of the 2 students in the team got the full benefit of the work. Now, how do you form a team? Well, you have to know somebody in the class. I don't give you the class roster. I keep that private. So I'm not going to tell you who else is in the class. It's not as if this is a fishing expedition for hooking up with somebody to do the work. The reason for this is that research has shown that teams function if the people on the team trust each other. But especially with a short December term and even a 10-week term, I can't throw 2 people who don't know each other together and expect a level of trust to develop instantly. I think that's one of the fallacies of teamwork in college courses. So, do you know somebody else in the course as a friend? And here's the criteria. A person that you know well enough to know what they're taking in the academic term is a good enough friend to function as a team member on a team of 2. You know that person well enough, and there's probably a level of trust between you. If you don't know anybody else in the class, that is, you don't have any friends whose course schedules you know who are taking the course, well, then you probably don't know anybody in the class well enough to function well in a team of 2. So that's just a simple way of automatically setting things up. Of course, you have an option that if you do want to work in a team of 2, and if you have a friend who also needs to fulfill a general education requirement in the historical area, well, if they can take the course at the same time you do, you're in pretty good shape because you just formed a team of 2. In that case, you each individually have to notify me, and you have to agree to the fact that you'll work the entire term in that team of 2. And you have to give me a little bit of a write-up with each assignment. That team of 2 work covers everything in the course up until the reflective essay. The reflective essay has to be done individually by each person. I do provide slides in this printed form that I've used for forming my lectures. This is optional. It amounts to more than 100 pages worth of print, even in this very compact form of 3-up slides with places to take notes. If you want to use these, there's really 2 ways to do them. You start by clicking on these boxes to download for the 4 units. You can actually print them and write on them, or with a modern Adobe reader, such as the one that you can download for free from adobe.com, it is possible to annotate PDFs, that is, to make notes on the PDFs themselves. And if you want to do that, then these provide the basis for that electronic note-taking. By the way, this is what the unit summary forms look like. They're printed in the published workbook so that you can fill in these cells with information from the text reading, from the workbook reading, and from the videos. what these look for is 4 different pieces of information: the purpose of the art, the rules to guide the formation of the art, the technologies available to the artist of that era, and the impact of this civilization's art on modern life. So every one of these rows is a different civilization or a different art era. And for each of those, you supply these 4 pieces of information. Now, here's what you want to do. Keep your information concise. This is not a place to copy text in from some other source and drop it in thinking that the answer is in there somewhere. I'm looking for brief highlights in each of these 4 areas for each of these civilizations or art movements. If you omit things here that are needed, there's a subtraction in points for that particular question in this particular unit summary form. But I give you very detailed feedback to help you along to attempt to make these notes as concise and as useful for you as the basis for the reflective essay which you write at the end of the term. And finally, a last item here. This is extraneous to the course. There is a document you can download here if you're interested in a little bit of career guidance. One of the courses I sometimes teach is an internship course, and this is just information from there that's kind of handy, I think, to pass on to students. Most students in my classes are undergrads, and they may actually be in their early 20s, which is a very critical time in a person's life. And when I'm asked for guidance on selecting a career or preparing for it, sometimes it's parents of students that ask for this, and sometimes students themselves. I put together a little 2-page sheet, downloadable at this click, and that's entirely optional. It has nothing to do with the course or your grade, but it's just there as a public service. So that's the extent of this course website. The content of the course is not at this website except in summary form, just an indication of what the unit is about. The only purpose for this course website is to give you term-specific information and access to the course syllabus and the participation form. I change this website every term, and it's the place where the stuff that can't go in the workbook has to go because that changes every term. The published workbook is the place that you go for all the course content, all the links to web resources, video lectures, for your projects and assignments, and for the content of the repeatable exercises. So the course really is in the workbook. That's why it's critical for you to get it. None of this material is either on this website or on Desire to Learn, because the pedagogical approach I've taken here is that I am your mentor. You need access to the materials of the course as rapidly as possible and as directly as possible. So I don't put them into a learning management system where you'd have to get familiar with my menu structure and navigation to find the information. My feeling is that people pretty much know how to use books. You open it up and you flip the pages. And if I put things in sequence in the workbook in a reasonable way, I find that most people can locate them much easier than if they have to pick around in an online system and try and remember the navigational mechanisms for finding the work. One other thing, you're going to see that what you get back from your work submissions is very detailed. I don't happen to have a copy of it here, but as soon as you turn in an assignment to me, you will receive back a very detailed listing that indicates my feedback and your grade on that assignment and whether or not you can revise and resubmit it. So I'd encourage you to begin the work of the course as soon as possible. Turn in an item of work as soon as possible, and you'll get the full extent of the grading feedback that you'll see throughout the entire term. I hope you enjoy the course.